It's that time when bad is good and terrible is even better. Yes, it's this week's Zaius Report, your weekly look at cult movies and other crap. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, the movie man who knows it all and where the bodies are buried. His horrorness, the Prince of Slime, the original invader for Mars himself, the man for whom the phrase B-grade was invented. Welcome, Zaius.
Well, welcome to the Zaius Report. This is podcast 14, and I am, of course, Warren, as I think you will have gathered by now. And I am joined, of course, in the virtual studio by Velvet. How are you going, Velvet?
Hello, hello, hello. I'm excited to start this as a permanent co-host, and we have an awesome way to start. We got an awesome guest tonight, and I'll let you bring her in when you're ready.
Oh, yes, look, I'm very, very excited and feel very, very honoured. Before we start, you should say Gary can't join us this week. He's still under the weather. So send in all our best to Gary. He will be back next week. So don't worry. He's not gone. He's just been a little bit ill. So send in all our best to Gary. But of course, we have, as Velvet said, a special guest in the virtual studio today. And you will have heard her on this podcast before, but not talking. You will have heard her singing. It is Alana Evans. Hello, Alana. How are you going?
Hello. I am wonderful. How about you both?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It's such an honor to have you on the show.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you. And Velvet, my girl, what's up, mama?
Oh, I have to tell you this. This is a guilty pleasure. Well, I always try to have a very hard image online. I'm over-sexual, but your song Perfect that we play at the end of this podcast makes me weak. I absolutely love it. Every time I listen to our episodes, I'm just like, oh, I get to hear Alana sing again. So thank you for providing the music for our episodes.
It's a fantastic song, and
isn't it?
Just remind everybody you can go and get it from iTunes. So recommend everybody goes to iTunes. Alana Evans, download her music. There you go. But Alana, I mean, you're up to so much stuff. I mean, with movies, with gaming. When I say gaming, video gaming, of course, I'm talking about not Atlantic City or something like that. Big into the union movement. I mean, there is just the music career. There is so much that you're up to. What are you up to right now? I think we've lost. I think
we've lost her.
I think we've lost her.
She's being awfully quiet. I was like, wow, she's really making sure she doesn't step over our words. But now I think we've officially lost her.
That is crazy. I'm here.
Okay, now we can hear you. Now I was like, wow, she's a really good guest.
I'm here. I'm like talking. My boobs are turning off my microphone. It's got a mind of their own. Jeez.
See, that's the beauty of live radio.
Oh.
I love that. And I know what you guys are just like talking, like at some point, and I have no idea. It's all good.
If you didn't hear what we were saying,
I totally heard you.
Oh, you did, yeah.
Praising me for the song, and I was talking back. Apparently, not. To
and I was like,
else.
for a second, I was like, oh, maybe that's a sore spot. Maybe I shouldn't tell her how awesome her music is. I'm going to shut up now.
Thank you. Because I actually forgot, Warren, that you play the song at the end of your show, and so when you guys reminded me, I'm just like, "Aw, you're so sweet." And I've known Velvet forever, since I was a baby, since we were
and the
both...
fucked up thing. Yeah, we never got to work together. Is the fucked up thing?
No, but weren't we both co-hosts on a little thing called K-Sex Radio forever ago?
Yes and no. Yes, I was always a guest on other people's shows, but you were actually a host.
But I thought you were a co-host with Wankus. My bad.
No, I actually wasn't. But no, it's okay, because a lot of people are always like, you used to do night calls for Playboy TV. And I'm like, no.
Oh,
and I'm like, no. I did Spice Clips for Playboy TV. Like nobody remembers the show I was on, but they remember me.
Right. But I remember Spice Clips. It was you, Anne Marie, Holly Hollywood. That was an awesome setup.
Thank you. I always like to joke that I started that show and I ended it, because I was the first one they hired to do the show. And the moment I quit the show, a week later, they canceled the show for everybody. And I always joked that the best left. So they were like, fuck it, we're done. You know?
Right. Exactly. That's when Playboy had TV shows that we would go to the studios for, and it was so much fun, and it was live. And now Playboy, to me, is like all the other channels. It's mostly just porn.
They actually have boobies? I was like, you can actually see boobies on Playboy?
Right? Shocking. I know.
Does Playboy, is that what happens with Playboy TV now? It just plays movies. It doesn't actually have its own. Because, I remember all the reality TV shows it used to do. I remember the talk shows it used to do and all the rest of it, that we used to get here in Australia at like about midnight on TV.
Yes, you'd get Naughty Amateur Home Videos, which my husband used to host, which was awesome. He did that with Inari Vox and Julia Ann before they gave it to Jessie Jane, and then the show totally changed. So everything's different, but most people don't know that Brazzers is actually the company that owns Playboy. So it's ironic that
I did not know that. I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. Wow.
They're Manwin, aka MindGeek. And so they own, they have a vast majority of the companies in the industry under their belt now. They run a monopoly and it's crazy.
That just blows my mind. I remember everybody wanted. The weird thing about Playboy was how they were making all their money from the porn stars and all the people doing adult work, but the girls that are just showing their tits in the magazine were the ones that were treated like the queens. I always hated that dichotomy. I was always like, they really just had this kind of attitude of, well, you guys are whores.
Right.
The girls that just show their boobs in our magazine, they're queens, they're playmates. They get to live at the mansion and they don't have to do anything for a living except for be pretty.
Exactly. And now they don't even get naked in the magazine. Which is insane. That was an end to a perfect era. So
totally.
I don't really know what they're doing.
Well, I suppose
they don't.
Well, I suppose it is. When men can actually now truly say they read Playboy for the articles.
Yes, that is so true. Now it's actually true.
That's exactly right. That's an interesting thing though you said about Brazzers, because we were actually talking about Vivid actually on a previous podcast about how we sort of thought that Vivid had brought adult cinema sort of into the mainstream, if you like. But do you think that Brazzers now is the big company, like it's the Vivid of 2016?
Oh, no question. But the unfortunate part is that they own a lot of the tube sites. So at the same time, all these other companies, are having to succumb to their mighty power. They're also the ones giving all the porn away for free. They get money off of advertising. So it's a pretty crazy, circumstance that's happening in the adult industry. And obviously me working now, with the Adult Performers Actors Guild, I'm the vice president. We pay attention to all of these things, and we want to help, revive the industry and put performers back in control of our finances. Because, man, it's brutal these days.
Exactly. That's one of the many reasons I retired, because I was just like, I feel like a sex slave. I'm doing sex work. People are making money off of me, and I can't pay my rent. Just like, I was like, I have to do something else.
No, you're right. And the rates for the average girl have gone back to what they were paying us, almost 20 years ago. And inflation has gone up. The testing prices have gone up. The things that you have to put into yourself as a performer to be camera ready, it's all investments.
In my heyday, 2002, I had $2,000 hair extensions.
Oh, yes.
And it's like, I was paying more for my hair than I was earning to do for a scene, and I was just
Exactly.
like, and people are always like, why don't you do that hairstyle anymore? Why don't you do that hairstyle anymore? And I'm just like, if you want to pay me $2,000 a month to maintain it, I'll do it.
How's that fight actually going, Alana? I mean, are you guys starting to make inroads?
So there's a lot of infighting that's been unfortunately happening in the public eye between ourselves, the Adult Performer Actors Guild and our mother union. And I know a lot of people don't understand how unions work, but we were created, we're a chapter of another union. So we're supposed to be able to kind of just act on our own, do our own thing, make our own choices for our members. But it's been a struggle, when you have someone who created something with all of the right intentions, yet is on a complete psycho power trip. So, we've had to kind of really distance ourselves from that person and that entity so that performers understand that, APAG is no on Prop 60. We are completely against that legislation. And so now we're at a place where we're forming support groups for performers to come to, whether you're still in the industry or outside of the industry. We're working on other programs, kind of working on the privacy issue for certain performers, because we've learned a few things of people being exposed in manners that they shouldn't be.
Right.
And, it's all these little things that people don't realize when they ask, what are you guys doing? Well, we're over here fighting little fights and winning the battles as the war is hedging forward. And so I'm really happy at the things that we have accomplished, the relationships that we're beginning to build. So, it's an uphill battle, but Shawn Michaels is our president. We've got Melissa Hill as my second VP, Nikki Hunter as our secretary, and we've got great board members, Kelly Pierce, Ruby from back in the day, John Magnum, who's a gay performer.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of really strong
Excellent.
people from all sides of the industry working together to, create programs and plans for us and help fix the industry as it stands now.
Excellent. Oh,
Excellent
really
work.
quick.
Yes.
really quick, if you don't mind me asking, for those that don't know what No on Prop 60 is, would you like to talk about that really quick?
Definitely. Proposition 60 is it's a proposition that's on the ballot right now in California only. It's started by the founder of AIDS Healthcare Foundation, which would actually make him in a position that he cannot be fired from. Like, that doesn't exist in any other facet. In order for this man to be removed from this job, it would require 2/3 vote of the California Assembly and Senate, which is absolutely insane. Basically, what it allows people in California to do is, if you're watching a production, doesn't matter where it's made, and you don't see a condom, it doesn't mean it's not there. It means at any point that you can't see it, you can file a complaint with OSHA. They are the people that deal with employee complaints, not complaints from private citizens on a job that they don't have anything to do with. And it would allow them to sue. 25% of the money would go to the person suing. 75% of the fine would go to OSHA. In essence, stopping OSHA from even having to do their job, tying up the legal system. But here's the problem. In the discovery process, there's a clause that allows for aiding and abetting. And you can tell I know everything about this proposition. I have studied it from the inside and out to be properly educated, right?
Good.
So basically, aiding and abetting clause is the biggest problem. It allows performers, makeup artists, anyone who worked in the process of creating that film to be mentioned in this suit. Even if a judge doesn't hold it up, in that discovery process, out comes my real name, my home address, and other information that's unnecessary. And I'm just showing up to do a job. The people that they need to punish are the employers. If that's what they're worried about, go after them. Don't come after me. If you think that I need to be protected, then protect me from the general stalkers who are going to file these frivolous lawsuits just to attack us.
Yeah,
I've had
exactly right.
stalk me. I've had people search me down and show up outside my front door. I really don't need our government to allow that to happen. So,
exactly.
And there's idiots, and I'm going to call them idiots, who say Prop 60 can't do that. They're so wrong. All you have to read is the, 50 plus pages of the initiative to see that that's exactly what's involved.
Oh, my goodness.
It's very gnarly.
Yeah, it's a really crazy law because they're trying to push it as if it's only about condoms. And as you can see, it's not. It's about privacy. It's about giving one person unlimited power and in a position where taxpayers are paying for him to have a job for life.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
a $200,000 a year position that this man is put in. And something else that people don't know about it, there's another initiative here in California called Proposition 61. And it is supposed to work on prices for prescriptions. And the story they put out is that it will, help veterans pay for their costs because then they'll finally pay what everyone else pays. No, it gives them a loophole to raise the prices on the vets. And guess who put that initiative on the ballot too? Michael Weinstein. So it doesn't make sense.
Guy.
Here's a man who's supposed to be taking care of people that have HIV and help prevent HIV, but you're stepping into people's lives that he has absolutely no business. And I'll say this, the founder of our organization, Felicia Ann, who founded IEAU and APAG, was offered funds. I'm outright going to say it. She was offered money. I've seen the emails. I've heard the phone calls to support this proposition. And so when she came out in support, those of us at the Adult Performer Actors Guild absolutely lost our mind because we don't support this. And so we've had to work to undo the damage that has been done. So it's a pretty crazy situation. And then you have to look at this organization that's willing to pay people off just to make these things go through because whatever money he's going to pay to her is nothing compared to the money he's going to make from the government if this initiative passes. So I know way too much.
When's the actual vote, Alana?
It's the second Tuesday in November. That's the typical American voting schedule. Yeah. So I think it's like November 8th, maybe.
That's presidential election day. So it's all the same.
It's all the same. And a lot of people are going to be coming out. So everyone's coming out to vote for president. They expect, unfortunately, this initiative to pass. That's why we're working so hard to get the word out there so people understand it's not keeping us safe. It's hurting us.
Baffling.
Exactly.
Well, one thing we can definitely say is that we are both on your side, Alana. There's absolutely, there's no question, absolutely no question about that. But look, what the other thing though I wanted to ask you about is because obviously this is everything cult movie, sort of cult culture and so forth. Is that we would love, and I'm sure a lot of the people listening would love to know. What are your favourite cult movies, Alana? Do you have ones that you revisit all the time? And do you have ones that you watched and you just said to yourself, WTF, can I get the hour and a half back?
There's definitely those movies out. There's some from the past. There's some from current times like Sharknado. Everybody's in love with that.
Oh, aren't we all?
I never thought that Tara Reid and Ian Ziering, would make such a huge comeback from sharks flying through the sky. Seriously. But one of my favorites is a movie I was introduced to almost 20 years ago by my husband, and it is one of the most quirky, odd films. It's called Kentucky Fried Movie.
Oh, yeah, yes. I remember this.
Yes.
It's one of those movies you watch and you're questioning what the hell is happening until you see different scenes kind of link back up together and, the Catholic schoolgirls from hell or something like that. And you've got the shower.
The one that always cracked me up was when the couple is making out on the couch and they have the television on. Oh my God, television, not a flat screen. Wow, that takes you back. Anyways, television. A television's on and they have the news on. So, they're just making out on the couch and they have the newscaster reading the news. And then all of a sudden he stops reading the news. He starts staring at the couple through the TV while they're making out. And then he like starts waving people over, and like other people that are like in the studio filming the news are like watching through the TV, watching this couple make out. And then she like takes off her shirt and we see boobies, and they're all yelling and they're cheering him on. And then finally they're kind of like, do you hear something? And then he goes back to reading the news, and you're like, oh God, that would be so creepy if that really happened. But it's so funny the way they do it.
It's like webcam news, really.
It's an old scene. I mean, I don't actually know who did it first, but I know if you remember the old Benny Hill show.
I love that show.
He used to do that all the time, where there would be a woman undressed in front of the TV, and the newsreader would just start to stumble his lines and get all the news wrong because or you'd see the newsreader trying to look around the pot plant or something so he could get a better views.
But you know what? With you joking about webcamming, Alana, now that you say that, I don't think that skit would work today, because now it would come off as like creepy, like somebody's watching you through your computer, somebody's watching you through your smart TV. Like, I think that joke's I don't think we can do that anymore.
These millennials wouldn't get it. They wouldn't understand.
Well, it's like when we were talking about Phantom of the Paradise a couple of weeks ago, and we were sort of saying that, there are so many stories to so many movies that don't work now because of smart technology. It's what is it? Is it the story of, is it Sirio? Lon knows.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
It's just on. But, I mean, today he wouldn't need to find somebody to talk for him. He'd just text them.
Or call them.
Yeah.
He could call them. He could text them. Exactly. He could send up. He could catfish them. Just send a picture of like Brad Pitt or David Beckham, or Tyson Beckford, and just be like, "This is what I look like," and then figure it out later if they actually meet. Like, oh, I lied about what I look like, but now you're in love with me, so you don't care that I have a big nose, right?
But Kentucky Fried Movie has led on. I mean, a lot of people actually see that movie as being integral to so many movies that would follow. Like Airplane, or all these other American comedies. It was almost sort of seen as that birthplace of that sort of. It's a little bit like in Britain, you've got what they call undergraduate humour, with people like, Monty Python and, or the Goodies and all this sort of stuff. But it's almost like that movie was seen a bit like that. It changed American comedy in movies forever.
Definitely.
Yeah, never been the same since then. So,
as you mentioned Airplane, I just start thinking about eggs coming out of your mouth. That is one of, I grew up with all of that stuff. So Leslie Nielsen and Top Gun and all of those silly movies, even the Charlie Sheen versions.
Yes.
It's great. All great.
So do you have one, Alana, that you just sort of wish that you'd spent an hour and a half cleaning the toilet instead of actually watching, the movie you were presented? Or
it's funny that you say that, because a lot of the movies that come out these days, I'm questioning what just happened. Why did I watch that? And I can't think of the title right now. It was a movie that basically had all of the old fighting actors. So it had
The Expendables.
The Expendables. Yeah.
Yes. The first Expendables, I was like, what? Oh, I love all of these people. You got, Jean-Claude Van Damme. You've got Ivan Drago, whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah.
People. But man, that script, it was just, get down, good. I quote those lines when I'm actually playing video games. I was doing that last night.
The third one.
But they suck.
The third one makes the third one, and like the second one and the third one, but especially the third one of the Expendables makes the first Expendables look like Shakespeare. So bad.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah.
But you still watch them. It's like a bad car accident. You can't help it.
I know. I'm exactly the same. I remember I watched the first Expendables just because everyone sort of said, "Oh, you've got to watch this movie. It's this brilliant idea where we get all these old 1980s, action people all together." And And then you're quite right. Then number 2 comes out, and then number 3 comes out, and I say, I don't want to pay for this, but I pay for it anyway.
They're making a fourth one.
Yes,
they're making a fourth one.
Oh, it's not Sharknado. It's not that cool.
No.
Seriously. I mean, we never thought that any of us were going to like that. And then it was like the most amazing movie ever, especially when Tara Reid doesn't have a hand.
I know.
She's got like weapons. That's just awesome.
But I mean, she's now got. I mean, she went into, I think it was Sharknado 2 Sharknado 3 with the chainsaw hand.
Yes.
But
very Evil Dead. That is very Ash versus Evil Dead.
it is, isn't
Totally.
it? It is. But
Yeah.
she's now. She's now basically part android. She's got rocket-propelled feet. She's like something out of a Japanese manga cartoon now. I keep thinking of.
Way. It's a long way for a girl who says in a movie, "I'll suck your cock for $1,000." Big Lebowski, right?
There you go. Big
Yes.
Lebowski reference. Yeah, good for her. Good for her.
That's me.
Yeah.
You know what? I have to tell you something really twisted, though. Tara Reid is actually my stepdaughter's godmother. Like,
Oh, really?
ceremony and the whole thing.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
I don't know her, and it was when she used to date a soap actor, Steve. Steve, what is Steve's last name, babe? Steve Burton, I'm sorry, from General Hospital.
Okay.
And he was actually my husband's best friend. So I've got weird, like, camping trip pictures of her. Young, before there's any plastic surgery or anything. And she's so
Aw.
sweet. And, you know, I'll tell you, she used to call him Bubba Bubba. So it's hammer time, Bubba Bubba. That's my character story.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. I was talking to Velvet actually earlier, and because the other night one of your movies actually came onto the TV called Secretaries.
Oh, yes.
With you and Chris.
Yes.
And it was absolute, because I think it's from 2005, and it was absolutely amazing to watch. You know, it's like 10 years ago.
Right.
I just wanted to let you know it was sort of like,
I'm a
wow.
baby in that movie.
I was going to say you look exactly the same in that movie because he shot me the link and I was watching it and I'm like, this woman's Dorian Gray, the female version. She does not age. There is a picture of Alana in the closet with a curtain over it, and you cannot look at it because she will age.
That's funny. That's, you know what is weird is I don't do any of the injections or the Botox or anything like that, and I just tell girls, don't smoke cigarettes, you know,
Right.
party once in a while, don't go overboard, and
There you go.
I kill him, I swear.
Oh.
You look at my mother, it is not in my genes. My mother, you know, man, by age, she was looking like she was 50 from all the sun and the 70s, you know?
Sunscreen helps.
Yes.
Sunscreen helps. See, there you go. I knew that was your secret. Ha you heard it here first, people. Wear sunscreen every day. Excellent. Well, I think we lost our co-host, Warren. I'm not hearing him now.
No,
so Warren,
I'm still here.
Oh, there you are. Okay, you got so quiet.
We just had one of those moments that always seems to happen when the telephone rings right in the middle of recording. So it was a quick dash. Anyway, sorry about that, guys.
No problem. Nobody heard the telephone. Nobody heard the telephone.
Nobody heard it. There's some poor bugger out there who's just had their phone, because it actually reads out the number. So some poor bugger's just had their number actually read out on the podcast. So that serves you right. But one of the things I loved actually when I was watching Secretaries that I thought was so funny was that, because 2005, all the computers were all CRT screens, and
my God.
but none of the computers were switched on. Like everybody was just working around them. And the other thing too, you've got to tell Chris, which I thought was hilarious, is that on the day one, because I think the film's meant to be set over 3 days or something like that. On day one, when he turns up to work and he's wearing a blue open-net shirt. At morning tea, he's wearing a grey shirt and a tie. At afternoon tea, he's back in the blue shirt again. And then when he leaves the office to go home, he's in a grey shirt with a grey tie.
So you know what that would be? That would mean that the person on set that was supposed to follow what days were what when they were filming did not do their job. Because on those sets,
I'm going to sue them. I'm going to sue them, and now everybody's going to know their name and their address, and people are going to stalk them and hate them. Okay, so no on Prop 60, obviously, because that right there is enough for one person to go off and sue everybody.
Definitely.
So yeah, right.
Actually, one last question, just actually about those sorts of movies. Sort of the erotic dramas and so forth that they don't really make anymore, because obviously now we still get obviously everyone refers to them as Skinmax, but the we get the erotic comedies, I suppose, if you like, with people like Mary Carey and a number of different actresses and actors. But
Mary Carey, woo!
Yeah, I know. Anyway, but do you think that even those sorts of movies are now in their dying sort of stages because we've got things like, everybody has HBO now. So with shows like, Game of Thrones or Rome or whatever, Spartacus,
Spartacus is my porn, man. I was really sad when Andy Whitfield passed away. I'm a huge fan of that show, and I know a lot of the stars from those shows. They're from Australia and New Zealand. I have to tell you that my favorite actor is actually Emmanuel Bennett. Woo! Oh man! So that is the reason why the softcore shows have died, because television itself is more risque. So we get, Spartacus is really a perfect example. You get those dirty scenes with real actors and actresses that you want to see. Seeing Lucy Lawless's amazing tits in front of you, you don't need me for that. Just let me go take the real thing. You've got them for all the good stuff. So, and of course, Orange is the New Black. Yeah. You get all your lesbian well, not so much lesbian anymore because they're banging the guards. But, TV had to find a way to keep their actors and actresses employed despite reality TV. This is how they did it. Just get naked and pretend to have sex, and we're happy.
Well, I'm so glad that you're a fan of Spartacus, Alana, because it's one of my. I have all 4 seasons on Blu-ray. It is one of my favorite shows of all time. I just loved Spartacus. I just wanted them to make. I know they couldn't really make a 5th because Spartacus was dead, but I really wanted them to make. I wanted them to make a 5th.
I didn't like the new guy. He was not a good replacement. He may have sounded like Andy Whitfield and gave you a little bit of that, but his body did not say Spartacus. Like, seriously, throw up some steroids, get the guy, give him whatever Sylvester Stallone is taking. Then maybe he could be Spartacus, but it didn't work for me.
It was, it was such a shame because, he was, set to do so many huge things, and his passing was so sad.
Absolutely,
but
I cried.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it was, but
got a thing for you, Aussie men, even Heath Ledger. Maybe I should stop liking Aussie men because then they die. That's not good.
It's all your fault.
Warren, I don't like you anymore. You're not cool. Got to keep you alive. That's all right. I'll make many more friends. I'm coming to Sexpo in Melbourne. At the end of November. I'm super excited. Fans can actually play video games with me in my booth. That's going to be pretty awesome.
Oh, that'll be fantastic.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yes. Something I noticed, though, a lot of the girls out there, the actresses and porn stars and all that stuff, they're all prostitutes. It's legal there.
Yeah,
aren't they lucky?
Prostitution's prostitution's actually legal in Australia.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I wish they would do that here. I'm not saying every single adult actress wants to do that or should do that, but if they want to, it should definitely be legal option, that would be nice. I have to admit.
Crazy. I'm going to have a good old time in Australia.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Oh, you'll love it too, and you're coming to the best city in Australia too. So not that I'm not biased or anything like that. You know,
Because I know that's where you are.
yes, I'm in Melbourne, so
We'll have a martini, super dry.
oh, perfect, perfect. But is there anything else, Alana, that you want to let everybody know about? Because I know you have to get sort of going soon. So is just obviously you've got a number of websites, obviously, with your gaming and so forth, and just go for it. Let everybody know.
Well, you can play video games with me. I have an awesome gamer site. It's pwnedbygirls.com. That's PWNED. And I broadcast on Twitch. I've got my own awesome little podcast that's all video games and nerd life, which makes me super happy. There's nothing than, taking your favorite hobbies and making a career out of them. I kind of get really lucky doing that, sex, video games, it works out pretty well. But if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can get me at Alana Evans XXX. I'm so happy you guys brought me on today, and Velvet, girl, congrats on becoming, the co-host with Warren.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
It's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, Velvet is wonderful. I was so happy when she sort of said, "Yeah, I'm coming on board," and it was like, "Yay!"
No, he's not telling the whole story. I like to gunpoint. I was like, this is going to be a regular thing. Like, you don't have a choice in the matter.
It was a little bit like that. It was a little bit like that.
You know how us Americans are with our guns.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm originally from Texas, so yeah.
So it was a shame you didn't get to speak to Gary, because I know Gary was really excited to speak to you.
Yeah.
But look, these things happen, and as I said, we wish him all the best to get better really soon. So look, thank you so much, Alana, for coming on. It's been a real honour talking to you, and we really thank you for finding some time to have a chat to us just about what's going on in your life and some of your thoughts on movies and stuff like that. So thank you very much.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you
so much for having me. It was fun.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope we can do it again sometime. I've really had a great time.
I would love that. I'm all yours for the two of you. Great three-way.
Excellent. Thank you. Now you're talking. Thank you very much, Alana.
Thank you.
You got it, guys.
So we'll just take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
I worked in the garden center, and a lady came in, and we had the flowers and the plants, and she asked me how much the chlamydias were.
The Only Funny to Us podcast, available now at onlyfunnytous.com.
And we're back. Velvet, that was so great talking to Alana. I had such a great time.
Yeah, that was really delightful. I'm so happy she came on.
Oh, she's so lovely. She's so charming and really smart too. I mean, she's the full package, I think is the word, isn't it? Something like that.
Definitely the full package. Definitely
Yes.
not half package. She's a full package.
Most definitely. So everybody remember, go and follow her on Twitter, and you'll find all the links, of course, there to everything that she does. So please, guys, definitely do that. Now, movie review time, and we have got our first movie for this podcast, and it's one that we've mentioned before but never really talked about before, and that is the anthology movie VHS from 2012. And this is basically it's a found footage movie, if you like, but it's very different to probably everything else that you've actually seen, because it's a group of short stories which are basically held together by a running narrative that actually runs through the entire movie. Would that be fair to say, Velvet?
Yeah, we call that a wraparound story. So it has like the reason that these stories are being told, and then after all the stories are told, you have the conclusion of the original story that got the other stories told. So we call that a wraparound story.
So,
yeah.
Oh no, go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say there's 5 stories in total plus the wraparound story. So definitely a found footage anthology horror film on top of that. So
that's exactly right. So to give everyone a rough idea of how this movie sort of works, and then we'll talk about the 5 different stories, if you like, which are actually in the movie. So it starts off with a group of, I don't know, white trash. Would that be a fair analogy?
Hooligans, troublemakers, criminals.
Basically, 3 guys who are not very nice, to say the least. And they go on rampages. They, smashing up cars, smashing up buildings. They film it all and they post it online as a way to make money. They also do some pretty hideous things by trying to strip women in public, and it's all pretty, I mean, they're pretty nasty guys, they're pretty nasty. And anyway, they get offered a job to make a ton of money if they break into a guy's house and steal a videotape. They don't know what's on the videotape, but they've just been told to steal it. So anyway, they go to the house, but of course, in their usual style, they're filming their crime. So of course, they're the dumbest criminals on the planet. But anyway, it's like
but that's becoming a common thing, though. Like a lot of criminals get caught nowadays because they post about their crime on social media. So I mean, that's actually becoming really common.
Well, isn't it like these fools that do these? They hop in their cars and they put dash cams on, and then they film themselves, like doing 150 miles an hour down the freeway, and then they forget that all their details are actually available on YouTube for the police to actually come and hunt them down.
Stupid.
Oh, I know. So anyway, our group of 3 criminals are sort of in this vein. They, when intelligence was handed out at birth, they forgot to go to the meeting. So they go into this house, and when they break in, they find that there is a dead man lying in an armchair, basically surrounded by television screens and videotapes. And so they don't, of course, know which videotape they're meant to steal. So they start collecting them all, but while they're collecting them, they start to watch some of these videotapes. And this is where we get to see all these mini stories. And so, of course, each one is found footage. But, of course, our wraparound story is found footage as well. So it all basically sort of ties in together. But also when they're in the house, because we'll get to the little stories in a second, when they're in the house, they realise that apart from the dead man, they're not alone. There's something else in this house, and we get to see little clips of somebody moving or something weird happening, in this house at the same time. So I suppose we'll just run through very quickly the 5 different stories. So they can basically be broken down into, we have a story of a succubus?
That's what I call it, a succubus.
To start off with. We've then got a second honeymoon we follow a couple on a second honeymoon. We've then got I suppose, a camping trip with some young sort of like university students. We've then got... Now, this will make you think about Skyping somebody you've never met before. We then have recorded Skype between a girlfriend and her boyfriend. And then we have a Halloween party, which is the very, very last one. So I suppose the first one we should talk about is the succubus. Did this freak you out?
Right. Oh my God. The first time I saw that freaked me out so bad. And it was, I was rewatching it yesterday and today, like I split it up because I was like, okay, because I kind of had to be in the mood to watch it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this, then watch that. But yeah, that one I still really like. That's probably still my favorite one. I'm not sure. I can't decide which one's my favorite. I know which one's not my favorite, but the whole premise of this guy wearing glasses that have a hidden microphone and camera in it. So it looks like he's just wearing nerd glasses. and he's going out drinking with his friends, and they're planning on bringing ladies back to this hotel room and having sex, and their friend with the glasses is going to be recording all the action. So that's the plan.
That's right. But it doesn't quite go to plan, does it, Velvet?
Oh my God, no, it doesn't. I don't want to ruin the story for anyone, but it's just kind of like if you pick up somebody and they seem weird, go with your instinct.
Yes.
They probably are not the person you need to be partying with.
If you meet somebody in a bar and the only thing that they're capable of saying is, I like you.
Ugh.
You might want to think twice, regardless of intoxication, and either find someone else to talk to or go home. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh no. Like, it's really uncomfortable feeling the whole time because you know there's something not right with this one particular girl they pick up, but then it also becomes really uncomfortable because it becomes a situation where there's 3 guys, there's 2 girls, they all go back to this hotel room. This one girl passes out because she's done drugs, she's been drinking, she just passes out. So now there's this one girl left alone with these 3 horny guys. So you think it's going to turn into either a really hot and nasty, made for made for TV sex scene, I guess, or it's going to turn into a really bad sexual assault. And I guess we could say it does turn into a sexual assault, but not in the way that you would think.
That's right. Shall we just say that? There's a bit of payback. There's just a bit of payback, and it's pretty gory. I'll have to say, it's pretty gory.
Oh my God. Yeah, I totally forgot when I was rewatching. I don't want to spoil it for the listeners, but there's something that got removed from a man's body, and I was just like, I totally forgot about that part.
Oh, I know. When I rewatched it, and it just gets, you just see, she just does this tear, and then there's this swap on the floor, and it's like, hang on, is that what I think it is?
Yes, it is, unfortunately. Yes, it is, unfortunately. But I have to admit, I felt sorry for the guy that was wearing the nerd glasses that had the fucking hidden camera microphone, even though what he was doing was totally shady, non-consensual, totally not cool. Did you not feel sorry for him towards the end?
I did feel sorry for him for a bit, and then I remembered that he's actually the same as the getaway driver at a bank robbery. He may not have walked into the bank, but he is still part of the team. Yeah,
he knew what was going on. He didn't prevent it. You're right. He enabled it. You're right.
Although I do feel sorry for him because when he's battered and broken and but it's
okay, one more. I got to say this. Okay, talk about performance anxiety, right? He was not able to get an erection. Okay, this is not a spoiler for people.
No.
You'll see what I'm talking about when you see it. But wow, talk about performance anxiety, right?
Absolutely. Oh, so this is our obviously this is just our first story, and don't worry, guys, it gets even weirder from here.
It does
because
it does.
The next one after that, when they're sorting through the tapes, they put on, and I suppose it's described as the second honeymoon. And where it's a young couple who are basically driving across the United States on, one of these drive holidays, drive all day, see the sights, stop at a motel, and so forth. And they're filming it, of course, and they meet up with this young woman who's knocking on their hotel door. And she seems a little bit weird, and they don't quite know what's going on. And anyway, she leaves, and they just forget about it. And then they continue on their holiday. But we start to see certain things appearing on the videotape where we realise that she has not left this couple alone at all. She is very much breaking into their hotel room, doing all sorts of various things while they're asleep. It gets really kind of creepy, I suppose. And but this is where, of course, we can't give the ending away, but it's the ending of this which actually makes this particular story. Because what we're describing, you sort of think, well, that's kind of dull, so what? It's the way it ends. There's a huge twist, isn't there? And I mean, that'd be the best way to describe it, don't you think? A huge twist at the end.
This is definitely my least favorite story. I do like the ending of the story because, like you said, the ending of the story makes the whole story. You're kind of like, oh, okay, now I get it. But the pacing I find on that story is actually a little bit horrible. Like, it's just so drawn out, so boring. It gives you clues, but they're so few and far between. And even upon rewatching it, to me, the clues were not obvious. So I was just like, oh, they really could have chopped off like 20 minutes of that story. It was just so drawn out.
I couldn't agree more. This story is actually twice as long as it needs to be. Yeah, I would have almost rather them cut this down and shorten the movie or added another story. You know, if that was the case, it was an interesting story, but it took so long to get to the finale, the crescendo, it was definitely, I agree with you, Veld. It was my least favorite, you know, of the
it's my least favorite. Like, even when I was rewatching it, I was kind of like, I almost didn't watch that one. I was almost kind of like, oh, should I just fast forward through it?
Fast forward through that one.
Rewatch it.
I know.
I was like, I'll rewatch it just in case I missed something the first time I was watching it. But no, it's the pacing on that one's horrible. Yeah, it almost ruins it. If you don't hang around for the end, it almost ruins it.
But the ending is very interesting. We will say that. So when you're watching this, if it's for the first time, don't fast forward and actually hang in there. It's worth it, in the end.
But, because it's really surprising, and it's just like, oh. Yeah. We'll talk about a twist ending. Didn't see that coming at all.
It's not what I was expecting. I know that for a fact. But then the next story, of course, that comes along is the friends on sort of a holiday camping trip, sort of 4 university friends. And we have a story, so once again, found footage of a young woman, and she takes 3 of her friends. I think one is meant to be the boyfriend, I think, isn't it? And the other 2 are just friends. And she takes them away to her sort of favourite cabin in the woods, if you like. And so they drive up there and, it's normal sort of stuff. We see them telling jokes, doing silly things, on the video camera. But she's got an ulterior motive for taking them up there. And there is a very interesting line where they arrive and they're standing around the lake, and she just looks at the camera and says, "You're all going to die."
Yeah. So I actually really like this one. If you're a fan of old school 80s slasher, if you like Hatchet, if you like any of the Friday the 13th movies that take place in the woods, you'll like this because it does echo that. And at first you think that's where this story is going. You think there's just a murder in the woods, end of story, but there's a twist to it, right?
Oh, so, definitely. Yeah. I think this owes so much to, like, as you're saying, slashers, like Jason. It owes so much to all of that. And, but this, it's not giving too much away, I think, to actually say that there's a creature who's in the woods with them. And her whole goal is to sort of use them as bait, if you like. To actually try to hunt down this creature. But the creature, what did you think of the creature though in this sort of...
I really like it. I really thought it was a rather unique concept because, like I said, when the story started, I thought, this is just a slasher woods, ripoff. But then you see what's going on and you're like, oh, that's actually an interesting update. That's a nice remodeled version of that kind of story. I actually really liked it, and plus the whole found footage aspect of it. And I really actually like that one a lot.
Yeah, because this creature is almost like some sort of interdimensional creature.
It's like supernatural or interdimensional. Yeah, totally.
But the one thing I've got to say, okay, which sort of doesn't make sense, is that when she takes everybody there, but we then find out that she's laid traps. Okay, she's pre-laid traps.
Right.
Well, if everyone that goes there gets killed by this creature, how was she able to lay traps without getting killed? Like you think about it, right? So she obviously...
You're totally right. Yeah, how the hell? No, you're totally right.
So she was obviously there planning all of this stuff. Well, why didn't the creature come out then,
Oh man, no, you're totally right. No, I'm really bad about noticing loopholes like that till somebody points it out, and I'm just like, oh, because I tend to not overthink movies. Usually, I tend to try to kind of watch them. I don't try to guess what's happening. I don't like to analyze while I'm watching, and so a lot of times I miss stuff like that because I don't want to put too much brain power into it. I want to sit and enjoy it. But no, you're totally right. Like, yeah, she should have never been able to lay any of those fucking traps.
I know, because this thing would have been hunting her down while she was doing it.
She would have been dead while she was rigging the shit. Yeah,
I know, and some of these traps are like hardcore things that you see from, like those Vietnam War movies, where they've, or it's like, do you remember the original Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where like he's building up all these rope contraptions with pulleys and logs, right? And this chick literally does all of that. But I mean, it must have taken her weeks.
Oh my God, man, Huh. Well, I don't know, because I mean, at the beginning of the story, she also mentions that she goes there on a yearly basis. So maybe the anniversary of the death of, because she's basically gone back for revenge because she's been there before and her friends died, and somehow she made it out. So maybe I wonder if it has something to do with the anniversary. Like maybe that's the only time this thing shows up to kill. I mean, that's just my bullshit theory.
No, actually, I reckon you're spot on. I actually reckon I'm wrong. Actually, I think you're quite right, because she does say that the reason why they're there is because of the anniversary of her friend's death. So you're absolutely quite right. So this creature only comes out on, why didn't I see that?
But how would she know that, though, at the same time? Like, how would she know it only comes out on the anniversary of the death of her friends? You know what I mean?
That's very true. That's, yeah. That's very true.
She was able to go out 364 other days of the year to set traps. I don't know.
which either that or this has been going on for a very, very long time, which means that the death toll of her friends. So, in a sense, she's a bit of an Angela Lansbury character, isn't she? I mean, you wouldn't want to be friends with this woman, but there's a very good chance if you're friends with her for more than 12 months, you're gonna die.
She's gonna invite you out camping to use you for bait. Oh man.
Oh, that's exactly right.
Wow. But definitely worth checking out, though. If you do like the whole slasher genre, especially an updated version with a twist, it's still a story worth checking out. Like, this is definitely one of the better ones of the 5 total, right?
And this one moves pretty quick too. It's got a pretty quick pace to it. So so it's very good. But we then move on to the net story, which is basically the video Skype, if you like, between what we believe is a boyfriend and a girlfriend living in 2 different cities. Now, I have to admit, this was the spookiest one that's in the film.
I think so too.
Yeah, because it plays with not only that idea of, Skype, which we all use these days so often. Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, even myself now, I often use Skype instead of picking up the telephone. Well, I'm still using my telephone, but you know what I mean? I use Skype, instead of actually dialing a number. And, So what we've actually got is it's recordings of the boyfriend and the girlfriend chatting on Skype, but weird things are happening in the girlfriend's apartment where she lives. She feels that there's something sort of under her skin, some sort of object, if you like, which is under her skin.
Yeah, she calls it a lump. She's like, there's like a lump under my skin.
And then weird things start to happen. And she believes that her flat is haunted. And so we get to view what's going on via these Skype calls as we get to see stuff that's going on in the house. Basically, people walking around her house, little children in her house. And a lot of it is pretty freaky. I mean, wouldn't you say it's...
What was really odd when I was rewatching this was I actually forgot about this story. I was like, how did I forget this one? And like, I didn't forget what happened, but like, I literally forgot the story was in this movie. And like, when it came up, I was like, oh, I totally forgot about this one. And the weird thing was, like, all the stories, like the very first time I watched the movie, they, all the jump scares and all that stuff made me jump and it got me. Okay, I'm laughing now. But this one, even though I knew there were jump scares and I knew what was going to happen, and I knew how it was going to end. Oh, the entire time I was on edge. I felt nervous. Every jump scare made me jump. I was like, so this one's got something special about it. It's a really weird, really unusual, really original story, I think, honestly. And honestly, the ending is really, it's kind of hard to understand, I think. I don't think everybody understands the ending of this one. It's because it's really out there. It's really out there.
I mean, I'll put it to you this way. If she originally thinks that they're ghosts and that she's been haunted by ghosts, we're not going to say exactly what happens, but we'll just say that she may not be correct in what she's thinking. There's definitely something weird going on in her apartment, but it might be something different, and I'll just use the word conspiracy theory. That's 2 words, but it goes down this sort of path, with all these, weird ideas that people have, wearing, what is it, aluminium or aluminum, as you say, hats on their heads and all this sort of stuff. And it's good. It's really good because it's got that freakiness of that sort of, in a sense, you've almost got that feeling of the modern movie Unfriended as it starts.
Right.
Where where you've got the video chat, but then really weird stuff is starting to happen. And and you think it's going to be one thing, but then this little moviette finishes in a totally different light to where you think it was going to be.
Like they do give a hint at it. I don't want to give away the hint because for some people that hear that hint, that's enough that'll ruin it for them. But I mean, they do kind of hint at it for half a second with I'm trying to think if there's a way I can mention what the hint is without giving it away, but I can't think of a way. But you know what hint I'm talking about. Her boyfriend's telling her to stop doing that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, listeners. I know that's really vague, but so there is a hint towards the end that if you don't understand it the first time you watch it and you watch it again, that hint helps you and you go, oh, okay, that's what's going on. But oh God.
Yeah.
And also, honestly, the ending on that has a really graphic, violent scene.
Oh, yes.
That some people might find really disturbing. So go in with caution on that one, to be honest. Because I was honestly really disturbed. I was like, wow, that's really no wonder I forgot about this one. It's kind of traumatic to watch because that's actually really awful.
Yeah.
That's really awful to see.
The ending is, because when we realize at the end what is actually going on, it's very horrific. It's
I think honestly the most disturbing thing about this particular story for me is actually the whole trust factor, that the person you think you can trust the most is the one that's lying to you and putting you in a position of pain and just really setting you up for a horrible life. And I think that's the most disturbing part of that story, to be honest.
It's just like Unfriended or a movie that Gary and I spoke about several weeks ago, The Den. This little moviette within VHS, it will make you just think again the next time you hit video call. It'll just
I mean, like, talk about lying. I mean, like, whoa.
It's just, how well do you trust your friend at the other end of the line?
Right.
This is it's a great story. It's actually, I think, my favorite. Which is in it, even though the ending is it can be quite hard, I think, for a lot of people to watch, as you said. But it's still my favorite because I think it's the most unusual. So it would be my favorite. But then we've got the very last story, and this one is interesting. I suppose if you like that. We've had the succubus, we've had the holiday, which is, like that true original sort of found footage, the camping, which is sort of like that homage to 80s slasher movies, the Skype. So we're sort of talking, about, as we said, Unfriended and sort of modern found footage. But then we've got the last one that we'll just refer to as Halloween. And this one, I have to admit, is probably had the most amount of money spent on it. The CGI in this is actually really good. It's just so everyone sort of knows, it's the story of 4 male friends, sort of in their, I don't know, is it sort of mid-20s, I suppose, something like that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
And they're celebrating Halloween, and they're invited to a party, but they get the address wrong. All right, they get the address wrong, and so they turn up at the wrong house. And after wandering through this house, they think it's a setup. You know, it's like the party's all going on upstairs, and the joke is you have to wander through the house to get to the party where there'll be lots of little scary things happening. So as they wander through the house, lots of weird, spooky stuff happens, but they think they're being played. They don't think it's real. And it's not until they get to the, the attic up the very top of the house.
Right.
They confront something very weird that's going on. And I don't think it's giving too much away to say, basically, it's like an exorcism. It's really what they see. And what throws them is they suddenly realize, holy shit, this is real.
And also they're like, this isn't the party. Like,
I know.
Like, for some reason, like, the first time I saw that one, I thought it was scary. But today when I rewatched it, I was actually laughing. Because I was just like, it still has really good special effects. And, like, the story is decent. But, yeah, for some reason, it was just making me laugh. Because I'm like, okay, you show up to an empty house that's supposed to be having a party. Nobody's there. It doesn't occur to you that maybe you're at the wrong house. And then when they finally go up to the attic and they encounter, basically, like you said, this exorcism. And that still doesn't give away the story. You still got to see this one, folks. But,
yes.
But they start chanting along with the exorcism because they think it's like crowd participation. Or
I know. I love it when they start joining in. It's like, burn the witch, burn the witch. Because they don't realise what's actually going on. It's actually quite funny, I have to admit.
And the way they were recording this one, because remember it's a found footage story, was funny too. Is one of the guys, a group of how many guys? Was it 4 guys?
4 guys.
One of the guys, one of the guys is dressed up as a nanny cam, so he's dressed up as a teddy bear with a camera on his head.
That's right.
That's how their adventure gets recorded.
That's right. I'd forgotten about the nanny cam. Oh, that's right. That's exactly right.
For the first time scary, the second time I think it's just a funny story, even though like it's it does have horror elements and has really good special effects and CGI, but I just think it's funny now.
I think the more you think about it, I mean, it's it's like this giant teddy bear just walking around the house. It is, but it's, I suppose this last story is, I suppose this one is based more on urban legend. Would that be a fair analogy, do you think? Or do you think this one's just playing more on sort of more 90s sort of ghost-like horror movies?
I think it's more 90s ghost-like because I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the urban legend. Is it an urban? I'm not familiar with which urban legends that would be. Did you hear about the guy with the nanny cam that went to the house and he thought there was a party and it was an exorcism? I'm sorry, I don't know that one. I don't know that one.
I'm thinking more about the ending of this story, how it ends.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if that's sort of based more on. Yes.
I'm sorry. I know what you're talking about.
Yes, the urban legend of the human teddy bear. Yes.
I was like, that's an Australian thing. You gotta let me into this one. So I was like, no, sorry about that.
Yes, when on Halloween, we have to lock up the children because of roaming teddy bears. Yes, if you go out to the woods today, there's sure a Prince surprise. Oh, there's a whole new thought to the teddy bear's picnic. It's
Oh, goodness, but it's not. But guess what they're having at the picnic? You.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
Oh, dear.
But no, you're right. You're totally right. Urban legend nod towards the end there. The whole you pick up a woman to drive her home, and whenever you look in the back seat, she's gone. So, I mean, there is definitely a nod to that urban legend.
I think so as well. So, yeah, I think there's, yeah, no, but I think there's sort of two elements, in this, if you like. So it's not a bad one. The CGI in it is definitely probably the best of all of the little sort of moviettes, if you like, which are in this film. So how would you sum up VHS? Because, the other thing we should say too is, of course, it spawned VHS 2 and then, of course, VHS Viral. So there's actually two more movies in this franchise, if you like. But it's but each one, like, you can watch. You don't have to watch one to watch the other.
Right. No, they're definitely all separate stories. Also, something I didn't realize was, even though they pretty much clearly label it throughout the movie, but for some reason I didn't realize it, is this movie is actually supposed to take place in 1998.
Yes, that's right.
But that confuses me when the guys claim that they're uploading it online. I'm like, wow,
yeah.
You guys were ahead of your time.
I hadn't thought about that. You're absolutely right. They must have had one hell of a, what would they have been using, an ISDN connection?
I mean, yeah, they definitely weren't using dial-up if they were uploading videos in 1998 from VHS.
Yeah, I know, we've got some, yes, we've got 20 minutes of footage. So, so after you go through the beep, boop,
it only takes a week to upload.
Yeah, a week, I know. Well, do you remember those days when, you'd be sent a video, or you'd see a video, and it was like 4 minutes long, and you'd have to wait an hour and a half for the thing to actually load. Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah. And even then, it would constantly be pausing and buffering, and oh my God.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Oh.
So I think that just shows how online culture and online technology is so ingrained in our psyche that when they make movies like this, it's really hard to be accurate, because it's easy to forget that, we couldn't do that in 1998.
Well, that's exactly right. But it happens in I know, one thing that I know bugs a lot of movie buffs is in historical movies where people are using language which they didn't use back then. But they've got to try to make it still resonate with a modern society. So they're using a lot of slang and words which simply just didn't exist, let's say 100 years ago, or
right.
Or something like that. But yeah, these guys must have been pretty determined to upload 20-odd minutes of footage on dial-up.
Yeah, I caught that today. I was like, how are they, what? Huh? Wait, did they just say they were uploading? And I don't know. So evidently that was a continuity mistake.
I think so. A bit like Chris Evans's shirt that we mentioned. And we were talking to Alana.
So when this movie ended, VHS, the wraparound story ends after they do the whole party gone wrong with the nanny cam. Then the wraparound story ends. What did you think of the wraparound story? Did you like that?
No, to be honest, I didn't. I didn't think the ending made any real sense. For instance, we see a person in the house towards the end. But who is it? You see him so quickly. Is it the dead guy? Is it somebody else?
Yeah, I don't want to ruin it for any of our listeners. I don't want to give a firm guess on the air. But honestly, I was trying to figure that out today, too. And I was like, so I guess that's why they were getting paid a lot of money to go retrieve whatever tape they're supposed to retrieve, because whoever sent them obviously knew that they wouldn't be alone. I think.
It's. I just found it very, very sort of difficult to comprehend the whole idea. It's like, it was like kind of spooky, the fact that you realise about, I don't know, a quarter of the way in that they're probably not alone. But it doesn't seem to make sense. There's just not a proper explanation at the end. It sort of leaves you wondering, what was that all about?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure either, to be honest. Like, I have a theory, but I don't want to say it on the air because I don't want to ruin it for people who do want to watch the movie. Because a lot of times when I listen to the stuff, then I like to go actually watch the movie. If it's something that was like, if they hear us laughing about the nanny cam, like, okay, I got to watch this movie just to see the, nanny cam, that kind of stuff. So I don't want to ruin it for people.
Definitely worth watching it for the teddy bear, though, I think.
But no, I actually really like all the stories, except for the road trip one or second honeymoon one. The pacing on that one's so terrible, but I do like the ending of it. So for a first time viewing, definitely watch them all. There's not one where I'm like, skip it. Like, go ahead and watch them all.
Yeah. No, it's so, I mean, you'd recommend this to people though, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. If you like horror and you like horror anthologies, which I love horror anthologies. Like, have you seen ABCs of Death?
Yeah.
So like that's one we could maybe someday talk about.
Yeah.
Because I mean that one's got so many stories. There's good and bad. So there, that we would only be able to do that one movie for the entire episode. Because there's so many stories.
I know.
Might have to do it in 2 parts to do that one movie.
But this one I definitely recommend. But yeah, it's we should say that it is a bit gory. It definitely is a bit gory, but so it's not for the faint-hearted, put it that way. But definitely if you enjoy horror, if you enjoy found footage, and I think too, if you are not bothered by that sort of concept of the slasher movie, then I think you're going to like this. But if slasher movies aren't your thing, it might not be a great one, or don't watch it alone. Maybe is the or watch it.
And also, like any little movie mistakes you catch, like, oh, this is happening in 1998, but they're talking about uploading videos of themselves to the internet. Like, just ignore it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just a movie. It's just a movie.
Don't let it ruin it for you.
No, no, definitely thumbs up. But if you are a little bit concerned about it, maybe watch it at 2:30 in the afternoon, not at midnight. With
the sound down,
yes.
Turn down very low, very low. That's how I usually do it. if I'm afraid to watch something, I'll watch it during the day with the sound down very low.
But definitely, it's a good one. Highly recommend it. And as we said, if you like it, you of course can go on and watch VHS 2 and VHS Viral as well. No, definitely, it's thumbs up from me.
Yeah, I like it. It's my favorite found footage, to be honest.
Oh,
cool. I like it. This is my favorite found footage, to be honest.
I've got to admit, it's not my favorite, but it's pretty close. It definitely is pretty close. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back with our final movie for this week's podcast.
I worked in the garden center, and a lady came in, and we had the flowers or in the plants, and she asked me how much the chlamydias were.
The Only Funny to Us podcast, available now at onlyfunnytous.com.
Now, final movie for this podcast is a really interesting one, I have to say.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I'm just going to give it a bit of a forward, if you like, if that's okay, Velvet.
Totally, definitely.
We often talk about horror movies on this show. We often talk about crazy stuff like the green slime or Q the winged serpent and, or boa versus python, the tale of 2 giant snakes fighting it out in the underworld sewers of the United States. But this week, oh my God, I can't believe we did boa versus python. Anyway, this week, we've got a really interesting cult film, and it's from Germany, and it's called Look Who's Back. And in German, Velvet, that is...
Erst wieder da! That's what it sounds like to me when I look at that title. So it says he's here again. He's back.
Yeah, he's back.
But the way they say erst wieder da, to me, I just see like a game show host or like an annoying comedian like saying a joke. So for me, right away, I could just tell from the title this is supposed to be a comedy.
Oh, yes.
But, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting film. And shall I just say one thing is that I think the only country that could have made this film was Germany. There's no other country really could have made this film and made it work. And it translates to basically He's Back, of course, with the English title Look Who's Back, from 2015. It's a comedy satire, but the reason why I think it's got such great cult status is it's the story of set in 2015, and suddenly there is flashing lights in a certain car park in Berlin. And I think we all know there's a very, very famous car park in Berlin. I think most of us know that there is something buried underneath that car park. And in this car, and if anyone knows the history, so I'm hoping that some of our listeners do. And anyway, in the car park, suddenly Hitler comes back to life, is probably the best way to describe it. It's the simplest way to describe it. And anyway, he starts roaming around Berlin, very confused, very sort of dazed. He's not quite sure what's gone on. And anyway, so he meets up with a sort of like a guy who runs a little sort of general store. Is that what you would say, Phil? Runs a little.
I would call it a newsstand.
A newsstand. And he suddenly realizes that he's in 2015. Something has happened. And when he basically killed himself, he actually was transported into the future, into 2015. Now, he meets up with a character called Fabian, who works for a television station and who's desperately trying to find his big break with his big sort of, with his movie making, because he's an independent movie maker, but not doing very well with the TV station, which is called My TV. But he meets up with Hitler and thinks that Hitler is a Hitler impersonator who's very, very sarcastic and basically will go down one path and then suddenly say something else which is so ludicrous, everybody thinks he's taking the piss. But, of course, we know he's not. It's really Adolf Hitler. And he keeps getting introduced to all these various different people. All of them think that he's just an impersonator. But in the end, it gets to such an extreme. He gets his own TV show. They start to make a movie about him. He goes on a trip all around Germany, sort of talking to people, finding out what their thoughts are about modern day Germany. It's absolutely amazing, wouldn't you say, Velvet? I mean,
you say that you think no other country could have made this movie. I was honestly really surprised to find out that this was actually a film made in Germany by Germans. I was really surprised. Obviously, things have changed. I lived in Germany for some time back in the day, 1998 all the way to 2002. And before that, even in 1996, 1997. Anyways, 5 years total. And during that time, I remember at the time it was illegal to do the Sieg Heil salute. Like, you could not do that in public. And they're doing it all throughout this movie like it's a joke. Well, I was just like, blew my fucking mind.
I know.
In fact, I was just like, whoa. And I mean, at the time when I was a foreign exchange student, that's how I originally developed my connection with Germany and the German language. When I was a foreign exchange student at the age of 16, at the time in the news in Germany, there was a school teacher that had been arrested and was currently serving jail time because he had been teaching his class that the Holocaust had never existed. And this guy was serving jail time, years. And so for me, I was like baffled. I was like, wow, this thing's a fucking joke now. Like they are finally to the point where there's a new generation that has no connection to the Holocaust, World War II, Hitler culture is becoming, a popular thing. Like the whole Hitler chic is what they call it, where people have memes and T-shirts and propaganda, and it's a joke and it's just fashion, and it's just like he's a war criminal that people idolize. But they don't really think about the things he's done. So, but like I said, I was surprised this was a German production. I'm like, wow. So finally there's that generational gap that has no connection to it. And because of that lack of connection, this is possibly the best political satire I have ever seen. It is funny, but there is such a strong underlying message to this film. So strong. You really can. I mean, even if you are sucky if you were really bad at picking up subtlety, you should pick up the underlying theme of this movie. Is people often say, how could someone like Hitler come to power? Well, this guy comes along who is actually Hitler in this movie, and people think it's a joke. And what do? He's popular as fuck. people think he's a comedian. He has a TV show. He's doing press tours. He has a top of the, list book that he sold. I mean, it's just, and social media. I mean, people see him walking down the street. Now, I was happy to see they showed this because they did kind of I call this a Borat style shoot. They did that a lot in this movie where Sacha Baron Cohen went in character as Borat, and the actual reactions he got from people were real. And in this movie, most of the reactions were ridiculously positive. Like, people are, doing the victory salute to Hitler, and it's like, really? You're seriously saluting this guy, like, as a joke? I mean, seriously, that's...
It is. I got to admit, some of that is quite difficult when you realise that some of the footage shot of him, just walking down the street or driving down the street, and people are, like saluting him and all the rest of it. It is kind of disturbing. But then again, but then again, you also realise that there's a large number of people who are basically telling him to get effed. It's like, fuck off,
I was glad they showed that, too. I was like, seriously, there's got to be a couple of old-timers that if they see an asshole walking down the street looking like Adolf Hitler are going to threaten to kick his ass. And they did show that, but not nearly enough.
Well, there's a classic scene in this movie, of course, where German skinheads actually beat up Adolf Hitler. Because, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. I mean, the idea that the only people that actually beat him up, that threatened his life, are the actual skinheads themselves, the actual Nazis of Germany. So that was sort of quite amazing. But you're absolutely right in the sense that, especially if we have a look at what's happening, right now, in the world.
Especially American politics. It's like, look at our current candidates. People are like, how could someone like Hitler come to power? Well, look who's currently running for president in the United States. I mean, a guy that has very, very racist mindset, and he's very verbal about his opinions, and he might be in the running to be president, and it's just wow, really.
There are certain similarities in this which are totally unintentional, because this film was obviously shot before the rise of Donald Trump, if you want to say. But there's, like, for instance, Hitler in this movie becomes more and more and more and more popular. Everybody loves him, and all this sort of stuff. But it must be said, though, they don't know he's Hitler. This is the thing we've got to emphasize, right? Okay, they think he's an actor. So, but then a piece of video footage comes out. Right at his pinnacle of him climbing, of him shooting a dog. And and I hate to say this, I don't know, for all the dog and animal lovers out there, even though it's horrific, it is actually funny.
It's funny the way they do it.
The way they do it is very funny. And if you consider, when you look at, like, the rise of Donald Trump, and then what's happened just in the last couple of days with that video, which has come out of him talking about certain female conquests and so forth.
Oh, God.
It's almost like the shooting of the dog in this movie. It's like, it's so similar, and which I found just, if you're not American, but you're still, even if you're not American, I think everyone knows what's going on in America right now. I think if you watch this movie, you're going to really love it. You really, are going to love it. But I have to ask you, though, about some of the really funny scenes, though, in this. I mean, forget about some of the political stuff and all the rest of it. There's some really, really funny stuff. Like, for instance, when the office assistant is trying to teach Adolf Hitler how to use a computer. Now,
sorry, that was funny.
That is just when he's trying to use the mouse and he can't quite click on it, and then he clicks off it and it's not quite working, and it's absolutely hilarious. And when they're trying to choose an email address for Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, of course. And he's like, how can my name be taken?
I know.
And then she was like, well, what about Adolf Hitler, 69 or whatever the number they put. He's like, my name is not Adolf 69. It's actually really funny. That was funny.
It's absolutely hilarious. And the interesting thing too is that the office assistant actually becomes sort of our a main character who the narrative sort of follows, Fabian, they actually become boyfriend and girlfriend as the movie goes on. But the interesting thing is that she absolutely loves this Adolf Hitler person. Like, she thinks he's super funny. She thinks that, you know, he's what's needed in Germany to sort of, you know, to heal the country, you know, because Germans can actually sort of like come to terms with their past and move forward. But the amazing thing about it, we don't find out until the movie goes on a little bit further, is she's Jewish. Which is brings up a very interesting scene where she brings Hitler home to meet her mother, who is a Holocaust survivor. And it is a very, I suppose it's one scene in the movie which is not funny. You know, it's very, very sort of...
I was hoping they would have a scene like that in the movie, and I'm so glad they did. Because I think there's some people who are going to watch this movie and just be laughing and laughing and laughing and missing the underlying message, and then they have that scene happen, and it kind of goes... It makes you realize, oh, this is some serious shit, you know?
That's right. It's like we've been laughing at this character all this way through, and the movie's so funny, and all the jokes and his gags and all the rest of it. And then we suddenly realise, no, this guy is real, and remember what this guy actually did.
Yes.
You know, one of the
and
greatest...
what he will do, again, once he comes to power. Like, he realized that he's using social media to his influence and just the medium of television to his influence. And he's, you know, being charismatic and telling the people what they want to hear and drawing them in and making them proud to be German. And, and once he's got them in there, he's going to, you know, go back to business. And and the movie actually ends on a very negative note, because that's what happens. I mean, that's essentially what happens is now he's gotten, you know, the one person who finally realizes that he's actually Hitler, they, you know, got rid of him. Yeah. He ain't going to tell nobody nothing. And Hitler's best friends with the TV station and social media. So he's going to. I mean, there's a scene at the just before the very end where certain revelations are realised by the character of Fabian, and the speech which is made by Hitler is actually really fascinating. And you know, I don't want to say what it is. I want people to watch it. But what he says is, it's a statement not just about Hitler himself. It's a statement about what we are as humans, what we're capable of doing, and the horror that we're capable of doing. And it's a fascinating speech. You know, it's not something that you would expect Hitler to actually say. And once again, I don't want to give it away, but it's quite amazing, quite amazing to watch. I've got so much good stuff to say about this film. I mean, it's very funny, you know, it's political satire, but it's very, you know, it's really making a serious message about today's society. And it's fantastic. It's readily available on Netflix, so it's an easy one to find. I mean, you really liked it, Velvet? Oh, I loved it. I almost didn't watch it because I was like, when I first saw that it was a comedy about Hitler, I'm one of those people. I'm just like, I don't think Hitler's funny. You know, it almost lost me. But for some reason, I was like, let me take a look at this, because I had a feeling there had to be a political message. And then when I found out the movie was actually German, I was like, whoa, okay, this has to have a message. I have to see this. And I'm so glad I watched it. And it's from 2015 too, people. This is like really recent stuff. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
But this film will hit cult status because it's actually based on a book. It turns out the book was written in Germany and they made a movie out of it. So I was like, wow.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it is based on a book, isn't it? Yeah. But I suppose going back to what I said originally, and we maybe we don't really see eye to eye on this exactly, but for me, I actually think that this movie had to be German, because I think if this was a British movie, then it would just be seen as a piss take of Hitler.
Right.
If it was an American movie, it would be the same. But because it's a German movie, we can sort of laugh along with it while still realising just how real the subject is that we're talking about. That's why I suppose I meant by this movie could only sort of be made in Germany to really work.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying. Now that you've explained your piece, my thing was I was surprised that Germans made it. I'm glad Germans made it. This movie needed to be made. This is a great way to get this message out. To don't blindly follow your social media idols.
Yes. That's exactly right. Just because it was on Facebook, it must be true. I mean, if I believe most of the stuff I saw on Facebook, well, then obviously the world ended 20 years ago. So, it's. But I think the other thing too is that I suppose for Germans, this movie is also a bit of a statement of it's allowing them to heal, because you think about it, the majority of Germans today were not born during the Second World War.
Right.
What happened, what Germany did as a nation, what their leaders did and their population went along with was something that they're not responsible for. And it
can happen to any country. I mean, this stuff happens all the time, that countries blindly follow their leaders, and these leaders do horrendous things. I mean, it's not just Germany, and Germany's taken so much brunt on that, and they've been really generous with their immigration policy, trying to promote social diversity, racial diversity, cultural diversity. They've been healing for a long time, and I love that they're finally to a point where they can make this kind of film and deliver a funny message, but deliver an important message at the same time. Just wow!
Oh,
it's powerful.
I couldn't agree more.
Powerful.
I mean, you look at the world today, and it's like Germany's opening up the borders while America's closing them down. And if you think about where we were at, let's say in the 1940s, it was the exact reverse. America was open its borders to everyone, and Germany was a closed shop. You had to be white, Aryan, and perfect, Not that I'm saying that's perfect. I'm saying what they thought was perfect.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so it's very interesting, but but I think that's the thing, it's like for Germans, they're looking back at this it's like you said, it could happen anywhere. I mean, we look at countries like Cambodia with Pol Pot. We look at what happened in Rwanda. We look at the mass ludicrous slaughter that happened in the breakup of Yugoslavia, and and that's only very recently. So. And even what's happening in Ukraine today, it's
look at Russia. I mean, look at Russia. Putin outlawed homosexuality. Whether you're for or against homosexuality is always going to exist. And for a government to say, "Oh, that's illegal," he just sent his own country back hundreds of years. Crazy.
Yes.
I mean, this stuff goes on all the time. People come to power and they do crazy shit with their power.
So just a little hidden message here to a certain country: don't let it happen to you. Okay, you've got a choice. Anyway, I won't go down that path anymore. But it's no. Look, I really thoroughly recommend this one to anyone if you like satire. Now, to let everybody know, there is not an English dub of this. You will have to read subtitles if your only language is English. So, but then again, sometimes some of the most interesting films out there are not from the United States, not from Britain. You need to. I mean, when I think about it, there's so many movies from France and Italy and all this sort of stuff, which if I just sort of said, I'm not going to watch it because it's got subtitles, I would have missed out on so much.
Oh, you're missing out. No, this is definitely one. Take the moment to read the subtitles. The subtitles on this are actually really well translated, because sometimes I've seen subtitles and I'm like, that's not what they said.
Yeah.
And the subtitles on this one are really good. So they did a good job of getting the humor across, getting the message across. And if you're learning German and you want to practice, this is a great movie for you to watch.
Absolutely perfect. So, no, this is, I mean, I think this one definitely deserves to be listed as cult cinema. It's one of those movies that I reckon people in, a few years' time will all be sort of saying, have you seen this movie? Have you seen this movie?
Absolutely.
This amazing movie from Germany. So,
absolutely.
So, guys and girls, get on the board now so you can say, yeah, I saw it originally. You don't have to sort of say, oh, yeah, okay, I'll check that out. You can be the cool one at the party who actually says, yeah, I've seen that. So, no, definitely. This is definitely, one to check out. But the very last thing I just will say about it, which I thought was really funny, is that, when Hitler is actually watching television and he's looking at all the various different political parties that make up, like the German parliament.
That was actually really funny.
And which is the party he decides to align himself with? The Greens. The Green Party, the German Greens.
That was really funny for me because back when I lived in Germany, Die Grünen, the Greens they're the crackpot party. They're just nuts. They're like telling people that, oh, well, we're going to have to find an alternate food source someday because plants are alive too, and we can't go on killing them. I mean, like they're that level crazy. Yeah. And for Adolf Hitler to like align himself with that party. Yeah,
I know it just came out of left field so much. But he makes a great statement where I just think it's fantastic. He's talking about the Green Party and all this sort of stuff, and he's standing there looking at the Alps. With his friend Fabian, and he's got a cup of coffee in his hand, like the paper cup, your Starbucks coffee sort of thing. And he's standing there and he's talking about Germany and the Greens, and the reason he loves them is the love of the environment, because they're the only ones who are going to care for the German environment. And then he suddenly just throws his cup of coffee onto the ground and walks away. But there's a rubbish bin 2 meters away from him.
Yeah, that was a great joke.
Which is it's a great little scene.
Oh, also, I know we're trying to end, but I also have to mention, like, this movie just has so much food for thought. But also, like, the way he actually is able to come back after they catch on film him murdering a dog. Yeah. And he comes back from that. He regains popularity. People forgive him and move on and forget about it. I know. Like, it should have ended his, popularity, but he recovered from it. And that just shows you how forgiving people are of celebrities now. Well, and they even exactly played on that. Yeah.
Well, it's like Donald Trump. I mean, what was that classic statement he made? What is it? I could shoot somebody dead on Fifth Avenue and I wouldn't lose a single vote.
Jesus Christ.
And it is amazing that, yes, our Hitler in this is exactly the same. He's Mr. Teflon. Nothing will stick to him, it's
Jesus Christ.
It definitely is good. I've got nothing bad to say about this at all. This film works. It works really well. It's great. It's absolutely great. It's absolutely great.
It is.
I suppose we should, start to wind it up, if that's all right with you, Velvet. We've been rambling for quite a while now. I think we've given people more than their fair share of movie reviews and entertainment tonight. I think we're allowed to take a break. I know. My voice is starting to go. So, But remember next week, Gary will be back. So really looking forward to that. And if fingers crossed, if things go well, we're going to have another special guest next week. I'm not going to mention who it is because I don't want to jinx it, but everything is sort of set up. So anyway, fingers crossed, we'll have another special guest for next week. So really looking forward to that. And I'll just use the word horror and actress. So, if you're into horror movies, you won't want to miss next week's podcast. I think that's sort of about it. Just to wrap up, obviously we want to thank Alana Evans so much for coming on the show. She was absolutely great. So thank you so much, Alana. Remember, you can follow this show on Twitter, which is The Zaius Report, all one word. You can follow me. I am, of course, I've forgotten what I am.
Martini.
That's right, Martini. That's right, Martini Super Dry. Sorry, I am Martini Super Dry. You can follow me, of course. You can, of course, follow Gary at GJ69, and of course our BC Rising. Of course, you can see his reviews there as well. You can, of course, follow Velvet at Take It Away Velvet.
All right, go ahead and follow me on my social media. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at OMG, it's Velvet. And from there, you'll see all kinds of perverted stuff. So please be 18 or older so I don't get in trouble with your mommy and daddy for being a pervert. And from there on, from my social media, you can find out what all kind of naughty things I'm up to online and in life. So
Absolutely perfect. And anybody else you want to give a shout out to, Velvet?
all right. I got some other social media in the works, but I'll plug them next time.
Okay. All right. That's all cool. Of course, Only Funny to Us. Of course, please listen to them. They are, of course, at OFTU Podcast, on Twitter. If you go there, then you'll be able to find their webpage, and they've got a Facebook page as well, and you'll be able to find all the links to their podcast. It's a great show. And of course, the Zaius Report is on Facebook now as well. Not many people know. I forget about it all the time myself, but it is actually on Facebook. So you can go to the Zaius Report on Facebook as well. So I think that's about it, Velvet.
Yeah, I think we got it all covered for tonight. I'm looking forward to next week already.
Oh, we'll have all three of us together next week, so I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be absolutely brilliant. And wasn't Velvet great? I'm so I'm so glad that you've sort of come on board and joined us, Velvet. It's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. I love being part of the team.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Thank you so much. And so we will leave you, as always, with the lovely and charming Alana Evans. Yes, you heard her just an hour ago, but you're going to hear her again with Perfect.